Hello and welcome to the NCEA presentation on the power of projects, organizing one's religious instruction around Christ-centered learning experiences. My name is Megan Crowley-Sullivan, and I'm an educational consultant and instructional designer with the Ideal Institute at Loyola Marymount University's School of Education. Our institute contracts with Catholic schools across California, Nevada, and Arizona to provide professional learning, teacher leadership development, instructional coaching, and principal school site consultation in the areas of technology integration and blended learning. As a former Catholic school student, having attended Catholic school all the way from kindergarten through my postgraduate work, and as a former Catholic school teacher and now university employee, I know how dedicated and hardworking Catholic school teachers are. I also know how difficult it can be at times to take the tenets and teachings of the Catholic Church and teach them in fun and engaging ways that not only help our students understand them, but also invite them into becoming active participants in their own formation. Which is why this session is designed to look specifically at the benefit that performance tasks and classroom projects can have when organizing your religious instruction so as to create engaging and Christ-centered learning experiences. Because we don't really just want our students to be taught at. We don't want them to sit in their desks and be told about their faith. Instead, we want them to model Jesus Christ and help them truly experience it. If we think of Jesus' time on earth, he was the absolute perfect role model for Catholic educators everywhere. Not only was he loving and kind and dedicated to his work, but he created engaging experiences for everyone and anyone that came to hear him speak. He taught through stories and parables, using the contemporary messages and images of the time. He performed miracles, walked the walk, and talked the talk. He was intentional about making sure that his message was not just understood, but also seen and experienced. In 1972, the United States bishops came together and published To Teach as Jesus Did. This pastoral message on Catholic education called for educators everywhere to approach learning and ministry in three different ways. They asked Catholic schools to teach like Jesus did, to focus on proclaiming the message of the church while also encouraging fellowship and community and promoting service to others. They said that we must be faithful to the past and open to the future. We must accept the burden and welcome the opportunity of proclaiming the gospel of Christ in our times. Where there's a summons to change, we must be willing to change. I can't think of a better or more profound summons to change than COVID-19. This whole year has been a wrench in our learning system. With online learning becoming a fast reality for all our schools, social distancing regulations, masks, and the pressing social justice needs that have been brought to our awareness, we have been asked to change everything about how we teach, how we connect with our students, and how we support them within our Catholic schools. And Catholic schools have done an incredible job rising to that challenge. But we still have a long way to go, and there's so much we can do with what we've learned this year. We can use digital tools to not just support our students learning academically, but also spiritually. We can further emulate Jesus as the perfect teacher by using the contemporary language of today, technology, to proclaim God's message and help develop and form the growing Catholics within our school communities. And we can do this while also giving our students a vital experience of their faith through projects. Now, we're all pretty familiar with projects. We ourselves probably participated in them when we were students, and as teachers, we've definitely used them here and there. Because in the simplest definition, a project is just an individual or collaborative activity in which work is done to create or produce a unique result. In learning, projects typically ask students to transfer their understanding and apply it in new and interesting ways. But depending on the instructional objective, the content that you're teaching, or even the instructional methodology in your classroom, the size and the process of a project can differ greatly. If we begin to think about the concept of projects on a spectrum, we're going to see smaller projects, like a quick project or short transfer activity that you might give mid-lesson. These might only take students about 15 to 20 minutes to complete. To a still small but slightly longer project assignment that you would perhaps give at the end of a lesson to see if students can apply what they've learned and show their mastery. Or you might begin to see larger style projects. This could be a more summative project or performance task that you potentially give at the end of a larger unit. This type of project would take an entire instructional period or maybe a few days to complete. All the way to this huge ongoing project-based learning style project that perhaps spans the entirety of one's unit or instructional work within a course. These large project types are typically based on inquiry and are used to fully and completely dive into the content and drive the overall learning rather than act as a simple assessment or application of the content that students are learning. Regardless, however, of the project style that you use, organizing your students' learning around projects can be a very powerful way to design your religious instruction. Not only is it powerful because there is a growing body of research that suggests that students learn more deeply and perform better when they engage in projects, which of course we all want to see in our classrooms, but also because projects allow for students to not just listen to others talk about their faith, but to truly experience it. Projects are engaging, they're active. They catch a student's interest, pulling them into the topic and inviting them to be a participating member of the learning, which is exactly what we want when we're leading religious instruction and proclaiming the mission of the church. We want our students to be active participants in that message. We want them engaged and excited to learn, ready and willing to jump up and attack the content, and rather than sit back in their seats and zone out. Projects also provide voice and choice. They let students begin to make decisions, grapple with questions, problem solve, and begin to discuss their thoughts and understanding, all while the teacher acts as a guide and support. This provides students with a strong sense of safety and the opportunity to approach the learning and enter into the work at their own place and time. It encourages buy-in, it motivates them to think deeply, and it supports them in mastering the content. Projects also encourage collaboration, which we all know is vital in Catholic schools. We aim as Catholic schools to encourage fellowship and community, and we want to bring our students together in their faith. And projects can be a really powerful avenue to do that. Finally, projects help our students draw connections. By nature of their design, they authentically connect students to the world around them, integrating content standards with reading, writing, and communication skills. To do this, while also using topics pertaining to our faith, not only allows those other important skills to grow, but it allows for students to connect more deeply with Christ and begin to develop a stronger relationship with Him. Students get to experience His word, His love, and His message in a way that wraps around them and integrates into other aspects of their learning. Teachers can even take it a step further by specifically designing projects that help students better see the world around them, better see God's role in it, and better see how service towards others can be done to continue to make the world a better place. When we use the power of projects to organize our religious instruction and begin to integrate technology so that we're modeling Jesus and teaching in the contemporary language of our day and our time, we will begin to see a transformation in the way that students approach religious instruction. And we'll begin to see them actively engage more with their faith. Let's take a moment to think about the projects that we maybe have used in the past or have seen others use when teaching religion. How were those projects powerful in encouraging student learning? In what ways did they connect students with our faith? And what areas of my religious curriculum or instruction could benefit from the use of projects? In a second, you're going to pause this video. Use the bit.ly you see here on the screen or the QR code on the next slide. It'll take you to a Padlet full of different ideas for projects that you can use within your religious instruction. Take some time to check out the different examples and maybe add one or two of your very own. When you're done, unpause the video and you can restart the presentation. Hi, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed exploring the many different ideas in that Padlet. I hope you came away with some ideas that you plan to use with your own students, and you added a few of your own. We're now going to look at some of my favorite ideas for helping your students to reflect on their faith, connect with others, and share in the stories of the Bible. Now, most of these ideas came from either my own classroom that I did with my students, or doing the work that I do with Ideal, having a chance to work with other teachers. You're going to notice that not all of the ideas, of course, align with the standards you teach or the grade level, but I encourage you to think about how they might be adapted to the current students you work with. I also encourage you to think about how might these ideas be done, regardless of whether you're in person in a virtual teaching situation or in a hybrid or high-flex blended environment. Because I promise you that all of these ideas can be easily adapted regardless of your context, standards, or grade level. First, let's look at how we might use projects in a way that inspire our students to reflect on their faith. Often when we're teaching religion, we want our students to think deeply about Scripture or what they're learning. We want them to listen and to respond to what the church teaches, and we want them to engage in reflective prayer. Let's look at a few simple examples of how teachers have used projects to encourage reflection. In this first example, students learned all about the Last Supper and its connection to how we celebrate Mass each Sunday. Together as a class, they created this life-size version of their own Last Supper. In partners or small groups, they were given paper and art supplies to draw the different apostles, Jesus, and the bread and wine on the table. The final project was a whole class-created, beautiful reminder of this important moment in our faith. It's kind of hard to tell from the image, but it took up the entire front of a classroom board. Students then individually used the online program Flipgrid to reflect on this important evening and its connection to our faith. Flipgrid allowed for them to listen to each other's reflections and share in the experience with their families and their classmates. Programs like Flipgrid are an incredible tool to use for smaller projects or to bring reflection into much larger projects. Other tools like Pic Collage, Word Cloud, and Google Drawing are great ways to further bring creativity into reflection. To the left here, you can see an example of a student collage created within the program Pic Collage during a project where students learned to live like saints. Students had to place their own faces on an image of their favorite saint and list some of the various ways that their saints lived to live good lives. You can also see a word cloud collage created by 8th graders. Students individually created word clouds to represent what made their time at their Catholic school special. In this next example, middle schoolers used a simple template in the program Google Drawings to create their very own Instagram post. Students used this fake social media project to reflect on the season of Lent. The teachers added all these made-up posts to their classroom website, allowing the kids to go on a virtual gallery walk to see and explore each other's work. The final example that we'll look at for using projects for reflection is for students to create their very own prayer journals. Here you can see a middle school example of a digital prayer journal created using Google Slides. Students began this project by picking a digital theme and creating a cover for their journal. Then each day they were given time to reflect in prayer on either a topic of their own choosing, a scripture that their teacher provided for them, or a quote that they felt personally connected to. This ongoing project allowed for them to connect with Christ and establish a personal routine that supported reflection and growth. Aren't those great? Each of those ideas can easily be adapted regardless what grade level or standards you're teaching. Let's now look at how we can use projects in our religious instruction to help our students connect. Inviting them to interact with each other, either directly or virtually, can be a really powerful way to build community and fellowship. Here's an example of a joint project done between 6th and 3rd grade prayer buddies. This project combines service and learning to think about how we can be called to serve others like Jesus. After learning about different vocations in our community that serve others, students worked together to pray for these special people and to design a way to give back to them. They collected bags of coffee, designed coffee sleeves, and created thank you baskets. Students then delivered them to the amazing individuals. Here you can see some nurses, pre-COVID of course, enjoying the coffee and student-designed heat sleeves that the students created. The project concluded with reflection and prayer. Both the 3rd graders and the 6th grade students reflected on what they learned in doing the project and on what it meant to serve others like Jesus. They then came together to pray in thanksgiving for these wonderful people and to ask God to help themselves grow to serve others too. In this next image, you can see students connecting with another class across the country from them. Students participated in a pen pal project where they wrote back and forth with students from another Catholic school. They asked each other about what they were learning and what made their schools unique and special. This picture shows them connecting over Zoom during Catholic Schools Week. Realizing that the other schools around the country were also celebrating their faith and their school at the very same time was a very powerful experience for the students. They also loved, of course, having a chance to see who'd been busy writing back and forth with them. Another way to have students connect with our faith is to have them virtually visit different places that are important to our church. One middle school teacher gave her students a list of some of the most important sites of pilgrimage that Catholics still visit today. She had students choose which of the ones they wanted to research and visit virtually. Some students visited Vatican City and checked out St. Peter's Square and the Sistine Chapel. Others visited a digital walkthrough of Jerusalem, where they visited various sites that we reflect on during the Stations of the Cross, while others visited some of the incredible places that Mary has appeared to people on earth. This powerful project not only pulled students into the learning, but also gave them the experience, although virtual, of being there themselves. Each of those examples were not only engaging, but gave students a really tangible way to connect. This creates a better understanding of their faith and begins to encourage them to have a deeper relationship with Christ. Projects can also be an incredible way to help students learn and internalize the stories of our faith. As teachers, we know that one of the surest signs of understanding something is to be able to teach it to others. What better way then to ensure that our students truly understand our faith than to have them teach it through storytelling? Let's look at some different project examples that have students share in the telling of stories. The first example shows students using an online comic creator called Storyboard That to recreate stories from the Bible in a digital way. Students learned all about the last week of Jesus' life on earth before his resurrection and represented it clearly through visual images and quotes. In doing so, they were given the opportunity to sequence the story and share out their own understanding of it. It also allowed for their creativity to shine through, while solidifying their understanding of these important days in Jesus' life. Having students learn about important people in our church and share out their stories is also an important thing for them to learn. Here you can see 2 examples of projects that ask students to do just this. In both cases, students had to read about the different important people before creating stories of their own. In the example on the left, 4th graders created physical books and designed paper dolls. Although you can't see it in this image, a QR code was attached to the inside cover of each of these different books. When scanned, an audio recording of the student reading their books could be listened to. In the example on the right, 8th graders used an online app called Book Creator to design their very own children's book for their 1st grade buddies. They wrote a simple reader to teach their buddies about a saint that was really important to them. When they were all done, the 1st graders got to visit the big 8th graders in their classroom and have their buddies read the books to them. Another great way to help students understand the stories of our faith is to pretend to become a person or character within them. Use an online program like Texting Stories to have students create text message threads that showcase two different people from the Bible talking. The example here on the left was created by third graders, showcasing different parables. In this thread, the sheep texts the shepherd, telling him that he's lost. This modern twist on the lost sheep story adds a creative element that makes learning this story even more fun. The image on the right shows students acting out important moments from the Bible. After writing their very own scripts, complete with a personal prayer, students used a green screen and the app TouchCast to bring the Stations of the Cross to life. They took on the story of our faith and found a way to actively enter into the experience, learning more deeply about the different stations and the struggle that Jesus went through leading up to his death and resurrection. And last but not least, arguably maybe my favorite project I ever did with my students, is an example where second graders used the app Puppet Pals to create animated videos that described a stage of Jesus' life. Check out this adorable video where students showcased the wedding at Cana.
Once upon a time, Jesus and his mother went to a wedding. That's beautiful writing.
Yes, this is a nice wedding.
Oh my gosh, thank you for coming to this wedding. Have a very fun time. Soon, the wedding ran out of wine. Oh no, we're out of wine.
Ask my son and do everything he says.
Woman, this is not my time.
Listen to him.
Bring me 2 jugs of water.
Oh my gosh, the water turned into wine. This was Jesus' first miracle.
I just love that one. I love their little voices and the way that they took that important story from our faith and made it a little simpler for them. It's a great example of how students not only show that they truly understand something, but also became truly part of it. Because that's what we want. We want our students to become part of their faith. We want them to reflect on it, to connect with others around it, and we want them to begin to share in those stories meaningfully, because that's when they begin to create a relationship with Christ. And we want them to be fully able to partake in that experience. But none of that's going to happen, at least not in the way that we want it to, if they're just sitting there and passively receiving religious instruction. We instead need to design these active Christ-centered experiences so that they can be part of it. And we also need to integrate technology so that we're teaching in the contemporary language of today so that they're able to see our faith in the context of now. And we can do both of that through the power of projects. Thank you for joining me today for our short session. I hope you came away with lots of different ideas and ways to bring projects into your own religious learning. For access to links, resources, and/or programs that I shared in today's examples, please check out this bit.ly link here. And if you didn't do so before, please also add your own project ideas or examples to our collaborative Padlet. I'm looking forward to the incredible collection of ideas that we've all come together to create.